is a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and an author. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. Uh, Before we get started, Erica, just tell everybody a little bit about what you do and where you're from.
All right. So, where do I begin is the question. I do a lot, but all great
Hmm.
things. I
Hmm.
am born and raised right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From my career, professional standpoint, I'm actually a licensed social worker. So, career wise, that is what I do. As far as my entrepreneur life, I have my business, Odom Investments and Property Management. Through the business, I'm a real estate investor. So I am your HGTV person that likes to buy those ugly houses, fix them up, sell them and or rent them out. And then we also have our Journey to Success course. So I am what we like to call a success coach, help you get to that success that you're looking for. So through our Journey to Success course, it's a 5 week course, a 5 week online course. Compacted with individual coaching sessions. And so the purpose of the course is to give individuals financial literacy concepts and things that they can use to help them prepare themselves, whether that's just improving their overall financial profile, preparing them to become a homeowner, and or preparing them for their investment journey if that's what they wish to do.
Hmm.
And I am also an author, as you mentioned. So shout out to all the authors out there. It is National
Yeah.
Book Month.
Yeah.
Make sure you support an author. So I have two published books. My first book, Journey to Success, which was inspired by the Journey to Success program that I offer through the business. So I like to call that our template for the course. A great outline for an individual, again, who just need that direction when it comes to those basic concepts for financial literacy and just the overall home buying process. And then my second book, Journey to Success, The Unforgotten Teen, all the things you don't get taught, is also financial literacy based, but geared towards teenagers and young adults. So, in a nutshell, that's everything that we do. And since I'm at it, I also want to mention quick, we did just um, launch our online boutiques. So, shout out Boutiques on the Go. So, it's my own personalized brand. Journey collection, and this brand is all about making people feel rare, authentic, and beautiful while giving them positive affirmations to sport through our collection. So if you are on Instagram or Facebook, type in Boutiques on the Go.
All right. All right. Now, before we get started, and again, welcome everybody again to the podcast here. Um, I have here Coach. Can I call you Coach?
Yes, call me
Okay.
coach.
Coach Erica Odom. And before we get started, everybody, I just want to say for those that are coming on and those that are listening that if you guys have any questions for Miss Erica, uh, I, I really encourage you to ask because I think that what she will share and what we will discuss is a pretty good topic of discussion because this particular issue when it comes to financial literacy, um, it's something that isn't really talked about, right? We
Right.
just, I mean, we spend more time spending than saving, uh, showing off versus saving. Some of us, I'm not gonna say all of us, but a good majority of us do that. So I want those that are tuning in to ask questions of Miss Erica if you do. And let me just go right on in and proceed with the question. So again, thank you, Erica. And I just want to know from you, uh, what led you down this path of discovery that to, what made you decide to get in these areas of all the things that you got going on?
That's a great question. So everything that I do, from my course to the titles of my book to my brand, the Journey Collection, you will always hear me reference the word journey, because my whole foundation is built on my personal journey. I am very open about my story. I got into real estate when I was 19. To make a long story short, I was one of those individuals in that particular market. This was right before the housing market crash of 2008. Was victim to predatory lending. Basically, in short, bought my property for more than what it was worth. Was in a whole situation. Property was depreciating in value. We had the housing market crash of 2008, and so with that experience and that situation, I then, in short, had to sell my home as a short sale, and that's where it all began.
It's
As
money,
far as
right?
like, yeah, walking out of that situation, I was walking out again, property depreciated. Bought the property for $125,000, sold the property for $15,000 cash to a real estate investor. So took a huge loss, credit ruined,
Mm.
um,
Hmm.
no savings, just in an overall um, not so great financial situation. And for me personally, I didn't really get a chance to experience struggle, as we like to call it, until I became a young adult. So that was my first time experiencing the struggle of, living paycheck to paycheck, not having enough money to make ends meet, and all of the above. But I'm sharing that to say that was the inspiration for me. On my own personal journey, I can't speak to others, but for me personally, I think oftentimes we view the word failure as a bad thing. I
Mm.
personally don't
Mm.
believe it's a bad thing. It was my own personal failure with my first go around with real estate that actually taught me not what to do the next time. That actually got me going to do my due diligence to educate myself and not just rely on the professional, but actually knowing information that I needed to know, and then also outsourcing to get information from them. So just overall teaching taught me how to grow, how to advocate more for myself, how to research, how to make connections,
Mm.
how to network with other people that was in the field. It forced me to get uncomfortable, and being uncomfortable is not a place that people want to be in. So it's
Okay.
working to get out of that discomfort to try to get back to an even
Right.
balance or a better space.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and for me, that was the starting point. And everybody that knows me know I said then, we're talking, that was 2013 when my property sold as a short sale. I just like vowed to myself that I was never going to be in this situation again, and that I was going to get back in real estate at some point, which I did in 2017. And I've been going strong since. And I just said, once I get back in the game, I'm getting back in the game. I'm not going
Yeah.
to take more losses,
Yeah.
and I'm going to move forward. And I also want to touch on too something that you mentioned opening up the show. Um, you mentioned how a lot of people don't want to talk about finances. And I 100% agree with that. And I know your show focuses in on mental health. And to tie that in, a lot of people don't want to talk about or disclose that they have, are suffering from mental health, or
Mhm.
experiencing certain symptoms, and not
Mhm.
wanting to share what they're actually feeling and what they're experiencing, or not connecting with the professional because there's this stigma out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's the same with, maybe not for everybody, but I would believe that it's the majority is the same when it comes to finances. And I can only again speak to my own personal experiences going through the experiences then. Oh, it was embarrassing. It was tough. It was, I don't want anybody to know this. I don't want, people to know how bad I really am struggling. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's that same concept of, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be looked at wrong. And I believe on that point that it directly relates to mental health in the same way, when people are experiencing and realize that something's not quite right here, but I don't feel comfortable necessarily mentioning that to someone or getting the professional help that I may need.
Sure. And it's interesting that you mentioned the correlation between financial health and mental health, because there is a connection,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're out here struggling, living, hand to mouth, that does affect your mental health
Absolutely.
and also your physical health. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
it
And
it ties into all that, and which is one of the reasons why I want to have you speak about financial literacy and things of that nature, because it's not that I want to take a different spin on having a conversation, but I I do want to have a community based conversation, because financial literacy is important, and there's a lot of things that we weren't taught growing up about financial literacy. Like you said, you had to figure out some things on your own, and you had to
mm-hmm.
figure things the hard way. You had to take the hard knocks. You had to take the falls.
Mm-hmm.
So with your experience, you can really help somebody that's listening today or that will listen to in the near future understand, like, hey, I'm not as intelligent with this thing as I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
There's levels to this. So this is why I wanted to have you come on here, and I appreciate, you're telling everything that's leading up to the questions that I will ask you.
Okay.
But again, I think this will be a good discussion. So let me ask you this question, Erica. What does it mean to be financially literate?
So I would have to say, what does it mean to be financial literate is just having what I like to refer to as those core foundations of financial literacy.
Mm,
And some may say, what? Everybody knows that, but a lot of people don't know. So, right, we know, you might know when a person says savings or budgeting, right? Most people know, like, okay, savings and budgeting, but what does that actually mean? And it's going deeper to that. So I think having that core of knowing, like, okay, what is money? Let's start there. What is
right.
money? What is the intent of money? Why do we use money? Well,
Mhm,
money is a tool that
mhm,
everybody needs. But where a lot of times it goes wrong is individuals don't know how to properly work the tool or understand the tool to make it work for them and for what it is that they need. So just really being aware of things like that. We put out that word budget, we put out that word savings, we put out that word credit, but do you actually understand what it means to budget? Do you actually understand what it means to save? Are you actually creating a budget? Can you create a budget? Are you actually aware and in control of your expenses? When
mhm,
we talk about your credit, do you understand, what credit is, that there's three credit bureaus, what improves your score, what negatively impacts your score? So I personally believe that it starts there.
mhm,
And again, everything, it relates back to my own personal experience. I mentioned earlier in the previous question that for me personally, I was fortunate enough, I didn't have to struggle in my childhood life. But again, when I became an adult, it was like, wow, let me figure this out. Okay, let me figure out, how do I need to budget? Let me figure out to make sure I'm not overspending. You're that 18, 19, 20-year old, and you're at the mall, and it's like, oh, do you want to open up this card and be able to get this today at this discounted rate? Really understanding what that means and how that impacts you in the short term and the long term, and being able to make healthy financial decisions for you that's not going to hurt you later.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
say all that to say there's a combination of things, but again, I reference that as really starting with the basic cores of financial literacy. Do you have that skill set, and do you know how to use it for you?
Mm, mm. That's deep. That's deep. And you mentioned budget. Uh, a lot of us think we know how to budget,
Mm-hmm.
but we really don't. There's people that are good at saving, and there's people that aren't good at saving, right? Uh,
Right.
and you talked about credit too, and uh, I was going to ask you a question about credit, but I'll get to that part later. I'll get to
Okay.
that part later. So, one last question: in this day and age, Erica, information is right at our fingertips, right? We can access it at any time. You're an author, as you said earlier.
Yes.
What books do you recommend to help people gain more knowledge about financial literacy?
Well, of course, I'm gonna recommend Journey to Success.
Right.
Okay.
So
Um, but
let's
no,
start there. Yeah.
I mean, there is a wealth of books out there when it comes to financial literacy, and even like you said, there's a wealth of information at hands. We live in a world of media, internet. We can access anything.
Right.
Um, and there's a bunch that I can name off and several authors, but here's my response to that.
Give me a
Whether
couple.
it's my book, Dave Ramsey book, whether it's Robert Kiyosaki's book,
Rich Dad
whoever.
Poor Dad. Mm-hmm.
My take on what I would tell someone is find the book that fits for you, that's going to fit the style for what it is that you need. Meaning that there's 1,001 books out there that reference financial literacy, but finding that book that is going to help you understand it the way you need to understand it, to push you and give you that jump start and direction for what it is that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's important, right? Just like if we were having a conversation about, just books in general. I feel like where we're at as a society today, most people don't even like to read books anymore because everything is media, everything is
Yeah.
computer, right? Everything is
Yeah.
electronic. But
Yeah.
it's like, again, from the books, well, maybe certain genres of books may not be for you, but picking that book that interests you. So the same thing with literacy, how I may structure my book and how someone else may structure their book, one of the two may work better for you. So my response would be do a little research and find out which style of author works for you that's going to give you that jump start of what you need to start you on your journey. That would be my response.
Yeah. How important is credit? Okay.
Oh my God.
Talk
Very
about that.
important.
I think
I
people
mean,
need to
that's
understand how important this is.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I believe it's important. Now, you have people out there that have a concept, oh, you should buy everything in cash, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I firmly stand on I never tell people what they shouldn't do or what they should do. I more so look at it from an educational perspective, and my recommendation is assess your personal situation, because what your financial situation looks like may look totally different for the next person, but you have to make decisions based on what makes sense to you. And so when it comes to credit, answering the question, I believe credit is important. Credit is not a bad thing. In my opinion, I think oftentimes it can turn into being viewed as a bad thing because more than likely that person has had a bad experience with credit. And if I think about me on my journey, when I think way back when my credit score was terrible. I mean, I had to, through my situation and my journey, pretty much had to ruin my credit and
Mm.
start over from scratch. I mean, you name it, the chapter 7 bankruptcy, the chapter 13 bankruptcy. I'm very open about my story because
Okay.
people need to hear this, because there's so much discouragement and that stops a lot of people from moving forward. And you hear that a lot with credit. Oh, I'm never going to be able to buy a home, Coach Erica. My credit is terrible. Well, that's not true, because you're looking at somebody, me, who credit was terrible, who went through the hoops and who has built her credit back up, and it's better than it's ever been. So it's not true. So credit is important. And again, I think it's going back to what I said, learning what you need to learn about credit so you can be responsible when utilizing credit, knowing again what's going to impact your score, what's going to grow your score, so you're not in a position where you're fearful of credit or you don't want to touch it because you don't want to get in a situation or get into debt again. And again, going back to myself, when I was at that point, it was like, oh God, I finally got these cars paid off. I never want to use them again. Well, that's not a good thing if you're trying to build credit, because you need to actually use the card in order to build the credit, but it's about using the card responsibly.
Possibly.
And that's the key part that I personally feel like when you've had that bad experience of not knowing, and now you finally digged yourself out, is this fear of, I don't want to go back to that point, which is totally understandable. But how do we get you not fearful, understanding credit fully, and knowing how to manage and be responsible with credit?
Correct. I got you. You mentioned that you filed bankruptcy, chapter 7
7
and 13.
and 13. Yes, I've been. You wouldn't think that now, and that's why I always tell people. And this is why, I'm an open book, because I get it. Nobody wants to talk about they had to go to bankruptcy court. Nobody wants to talk about
Right.
that you don't got enough money to pay your bills. I'm very open about that, because people need to know it's nothing to be ashamed about. A lot of people are experiencing financial hardship, and you would never know it because they're, again, that stigma. They're not going to talk about that. They're not going to disclose that. So I like to use myself to put myself out there, as they say, so like you said, somebody can get something from it. Even if it's just hope, even if it's one thing, you don't have to give up on your situation. Your situation can change. So yes, I have had to file chapter 7 in the past, chapter 13 in the past, and the list goes on. Let me tell you, the list goes on. And I openly share that because you can overcome that. You can overcome that, and having chapter 7 or having chapter 13 or having a collection, whatever that looks like for your situation, that's not the end. And I think that's what people need to hear the most. That's not the end. That may be the beginning for you. That may be the beginning to an even bigger, better, and brighter future for you financially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you get over all that?
Whew.
Hey, we got time. We got time tonight.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm thankful for my support team, and I mean friends, family, just support, not even financial, just support, encouragement. And I understand that might not be the case for everybody, but then that's when you connect with other people, that maybe is where you're trying to get to. That's not a bad thing. People sometimes view that different, but it's actually a great thing to connect with other people who may be a little bit more ahead or in that direction already of where you wanting to go. Again, educating yourself. A lot of my decisions was lack of knowledge to get you in a lot of trouble. And so really being educated to the best of your ability in knowing, like, okay, if I make this decision, how is this going to impact me? What is this going to look like for me? I always tell my clients, ask questions. It's nothing wrong with asking questions. I always tell people with the home buying process, all these individuals involved, they're getting a paycheck when that house closes. Everybody. So they're working for you, and you should ask questions. And that means if you need to slow them down until you understand clearly what this means, then that's what needs to happen before you move forward. Reading, we got to get back to reading. I feel like as a society, this is Coach Erica opinion, we've kind of lost track with literacy and reading. We need to get back to just filling our brains with knowledge on a consistent basis. Whatever that looks like for you, whatever that read looks like for you, and you got to put in the work. I can't leave that out. I've put in a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time, excuse me. A lot of times we get ourselves into these situations and things happen, but we have to get to a point where if you're ready to make that change, that may mean you need to put in the extra work. Whether that's, excuse me, my throat, like they don't want me to get the word out right now.
Get some water. That's cool.
But that means like putting in the work. Like, okay, if I gotta get a part-time job and grind it out for 6 months to make up for this income that I need to be short, then I need to commit. You got to have that commitment to do that.
Mm,
Got to be willing to put in that sacrifice.
yeah.
And I put in that work. And even now where I'm at now, I continuously to put in the work and the necessary things needed to keep me moving forward on my journey and pushing towards what it is that I'm looking to accomplish and the legacy that I am building for my family.
Hmm. Hmm. I have a question here
Mhm.
on the Facebook chat. Uh,
Okay.
my wife Gabrielle, she's asking this question: what tips would you give to people trying to build their credit while using their credit cards?
Great question. So with credit cards, my favorite topic. Because let me tell you, at one point in time, I had a bunch of credit card debt. But
Mm,
so with credit cards, the key is number one, spending responsibly. So if you have $1,000 credit card, that doesn't mean you go to the store and max it out. You should only be using 30% of that. So at most on $1,000 credit card, you shouldn't be spending more than $300 on your credit card. So, just programming yourself that I'm not going to max this card out. I'm going to spend it responsibly. I always like to teach people, use it for what you already have. And what I mean by that is if I know I have this credit card and I know I can't max it out, I have to stay under 30% utilization. So in my $1,000 example, I'm only going to use $300 for the card. And let's just say I'm using this card to my grocery card. Well, technically, if I'm going to the grocery store and my budget for the month is $200 for groceries, I know that I'm going to be okay. Why? Because I'm spending what I have. I have the $200 in my pocket or in my account, but for the sake that I'm trying to use my credit, I'm trying to build and establish, I'm going to put it on my card. But the key is I'm going to pay that $200 balance off in full by the due date. Because when you go past the due date or you're only making the minimum payment, now we're paying interest. And that's what we don't want to do. And now, that's how people tend to get this bill stacked up because they're only putting on the minimum payment instead of paying the balance right back off. And just even with the payment, making sure you're paying your bills on time. You got to pay your credit card
mm,
on time. You got to
that
keep the
part.
balance down low and you got to use it.
And
You
use
can't
it.
just have it
Yeah.
sit there. You got to use it. And that's the
Yeah.
part where I said that, that fear gets instilled because people are like, oh, I don't want to use this card. I want to close. I don't want to use it. I want to close it out. And I would say with the closeout, if this is a card you've had for 12, 10 years, you've established a history with this card, you absolutely don't want to close it out because at that point, it will affect your credit
Mm,
because you're now interfering with your credit, what we call your credit history, because now
okay.
you've taken a card that you've had the longest and closed it out, and that's not a good thing.
Okay. Interesting. Got another question here by DeAndre Shaw. How would a person with no credit obtain a credit card?
So there's different options. One, I would tell that person to connect with their bank, who they bank with, and look into an option for what's called a secure credit card. So that's something they can connect with the bank to put money basically onto a card that they then can pay, which is then establishing credit. And if it's not necessarily a credit card, there's other things, DeAndre, like if you download the Experian app. Experian has what's called Experian Boost. So now there's things out there that you can add
Hmm.
bills that qualify onto there, which
Hmm.
will help you increase credit.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so there's different things,
Mhm.
but just getting out there to see what that works for you.
Sure. I think there's apps out there that could help build credit builder apps that's out
There
there that
are,
you
and I'm not
upload.
I'm not very in tune with those. I'll be honest. I don't speak on much on things that I don't know. But I have heard of people using those. I personally don't know, or not have not worked with anyone closely that has used that.
Yeah.
But again, there are things out there
Hmm.
now that you can use to help build up your credit.
Yeah, there are. So to answer your question, Shaw, there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of angles that you can use to obtain credit without
Hmm.
even having to use a credit card. So,
Hmm.
and I would say to add on to what you're saying, maybe get onto one of these apps and start the process. And as you're paying into your own account. I think that's how
Hmm.
it works. But I have one. It's called through the Self app, and
Yep.
you're paying to yourself,
Hmm.
DeAndre. So I hope you're listening. So you're paying, you're opening up an account and you're paying it to yourself.
Hmm.
And as long as you're making monthly payments to yourself, you're not only you're not only building uh, currency, you're building credit. So it's
Right.
a win-win for you.
Hmm.
A win-win.
Yep.
There's no L's here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I would highly recommend uh checking those out. So yes. So thank you for the questions, guys. If you guys have any more questions during our interview, please ask. Like I said earlier, I think this is a good topic of discussion to talk about finances, and we're going into credit right now. So uh, keep them coming. I want to ask you about your book. Actually, you have two books,
I have two books.
and you're making a third,
I
right?
am making a third. It's
Oh,
coming
okay,
soon.
okay.
I don't want to give it away, but
Right.
it's in the making.
So the first book I think is called Journey to Success.
Yes.
Talk about that. What's the premise of the book?
So again, Journeys to Success is the same name as the course that we offer, which is also called Journey to Success. So that book is more what I would like to say is more of my adult-based book, which lays out those basic cores of financial literacy, budgeting, savings. How do we make smart spending habits? How do we eliminate debt if we have debt? And then it also, in the later modules of the books, talks about the home buying process. And that part is very, well, it's all personable to me, but that part is very personal to me because, like I shared at the beginning, when I bought my first property, I got taken advantage of. Like,
Mm, mm,
there's no other way to put it. That's what
mhm,
happened.
mhm,
And it was a lot of that happening back in 2006. But that piece is in there because I think it's important for people to know, like, what does this process mean, right? When you buy a home. And there's a lot of people out there that do workshops, they do seminars, right? And all great things, but I like to say mine's map out step by step. This is what it's going to look like when you go through the process, not to the T, because obviously it's tailored to your individual situation. But my goal was to give people like a step-by-step guide. Okay, this is what you need to be looking for and asking when you're looking for a realtor. This
mhm,
is what you need to be looking for and asking when you're looking for a home inspector. This is
mhm,
the questions you need to be asking the bank before you
mm,
even allow them to pull your credit, to even know, is this the bank for me? And
mm.
then going a little bit deeper, right?
Okay.
Here are the loan products that's going to be available to you. Do you actually understand what does it mean to have Federal Housing Administration loan or FHA loan? Do you understand what it means when they say we're going to put you in conventional lending? Do you understand what it means when they say they're going to put you in Veteran Administration house loan or a VA loan? Because oftentimes, and I know from experience, you go in the bank, you rely on the broker, you listen to what they say, and you go with it. Well, I want you, as the coach, I want you to go in the bank And I want you to already know what FHA is versus conventional. And I want you to already know so you can tell the banker, okay, let's talk about my scenario if I go the FHA route. Let's talk about my scenario if I go conventional lending. Take control of the situation for the benefit of you, and then you can make sound decisions when it comes to your situation and your financial profile. And so that book, that part of the module is just giving tips and information that people can further research and elaborate on so they can feel a little bit more empowered and a little bit more prepared for when they're ready to cross that path.
Yeah. So basically you're saying that this is a blueprint.
You can call it that. Yes.
This is a play-by-play. He's like, okay, after you get done with this is what you're going to be doing now. So this is what you do while you're in this stage, and this is what you do when you're in that stage.
Right. And it's a guide. It's a guide. And, you know, even my book, somebody else's book, what I say, I always tell people, don't take everything I say for granted. I want you to take this and I want you to elaborate and expand on it. I want you to further get more information and more notes so that you feel good and confident when you go to make this decision. Because when we talk about home buying, that's a big decision to make. That's a big debt. So you need to feel confident in that process and feel good about the decision that you're making before you sign your name on that line.
I have another question here on the chat. What is a good credit score?
Ooh, okay. So I would encourage you for the purpose of home buying, I would say aim for a 740-ish. That would be my recommendation. If you can get, I would say for home buying, I would say really try to get to the 700s at the very minimum. 740 is good, puts you in a good range because it's going to help you get better rates, not have to pay, you know, much in cost potentially as if your score was lower. But from a credit standpoint, I mean, I would say try to aim for like mid six-ish at the very lowest. That's my recommendation, but I would always encourage you to get your score up higher because the better your score is just going to help you save interest, you know, get better rates, things like that. So you always want to try to aim or work to get yourself to that point. But I do want to say on that note, be patient and give yourself grace when it comes to credit. A lot of people, and again, speaking from experience, you get in that like, I want to get my score up. I want to get my score up. It's not changing. It is so quick to get discouraged and thinking like this ain't working. I'm doing everything. I'm paying my bills. I paid this off. But give yourself grace and give yourself time. That is vital. Credit is a process. It takes time. But with work, with effort, with consistency, you will gradually start to see your score improve. Just had to add that in there.
That's cool. Now, your second book, what's it? Journey to Success.
It's a long title.
It is.
The Unforgotten Teen, all the things you don't get taught. And the unforgotten is crucial. And the reason being, I don't want no teen to be forgotten when it comes to financial literacy. And I don't personally think we do enough to prepare kids for the real world when it comes to financial literacy. I know when I was growing up, my parents were great, but we didn't talk about credit. We didn't talk about budgeting. We didn't talk about you should be, you know, investing this way. Like those weren't the conversations. The conversations was more like you need to pay your bills, you need to work your job, you gotta, you know, right? So that's not a common conversation in the average households. In some households, maybe, but the average households, that's not the conversation that's happening. And most like myself, then you become a young adult, you think you know it, you're moving out, you're doing this, you're doing that, and then you get hit with a reality real fast.
Mm.
And then you get hit with making these decisions, and you get hit with knowing how to deal with this financial potentially disaster that you have put yourself into. So that book is meant to start early. We need to start having conversations when it comes to finances early, in my
Indeed.
opinion, as
Indeed.
young as five. A 5 year old can be taught how to save. You can
Sure.
get very creative in giving them saving methods through a
Indeed.
game or activity that will teach them that concept. But
Mm.
just finding ways to teach those concepts, to instill that early on, is key. So the second book is all about teaching teenagers, young adults, about credit, about needs versus wants, about having assets versus liabilities, about budgeting, about savings. There's a variety of topics that the book goes into, just giving them, again, those concepts to prepare them for the future.
Mm. And that's deep because I think financial literacy is something that should be taught, I would say, probably in middle school,
I agree.
you know,
I agree.
and even go further. I would say that now when you get into high school, I think Mark, this is what Mark thinks. And talking with you, I'm thinking maybe in high school there should be a conversation about investing. There should
I
be a
agree.
conversation about life insurance. We don't talk about life insurance
We
at all.
don't. We don't. The easiest way
We
to
don't. We don't talk
generational
about
wealth,
that. And I
we
read a
don't.
book. I read a book, Erica, about life insurance, and it was a sad but very real reality that in our community we we don't engage in getting life insurance policies. So
No.
when something happens to our loved ones or to ourselves, everybody else is left holding the bag. When all you
Correct.
could have done was get
Correct.
a policy to cover all those expenses and
Correct.
maybe leave your family members or your siblings or your family a little nest egg.
Correct.
They're in
Correct.
debt. Now they're in
Correct.
debt.
And
And
life insurance is one of the easiest ways to pass generational wealth. And like I always like to tell people, you hear people say, "Oh, well, I'll be dead and gone." Well, yeah, you'll be dead and
yeah,
gone, but your family's going to be left with debt. Just because you're dead and gone doesn't
right,
mean that the debt is gone.
right.
So, I 100% agree with you. I am actually also a life agent as well. So that's one of the things
Mm,
that we do with all the combination within the process, is making sure our clients that we work with do have policies and investments, as well. So again, all great conversations that need to happen. But it is one thing I did want to touch on
yes.
before we run out of time.
Oh, no,
Just kind of bringing it back, to the mental health perspective. And I
yeah.
just want people to just to hear me out and think about, just really think about what I'm going to say. So there's two angles to this, right? You think about mental health. This person is just maybe not struggling financially, but they're struggling with their mental health. They're dealing with a stigma. Maybe I don't want to get help. I don't want to tell anyone. So unfortunately, they begin to spiral. And when they begin to spiral, it can then put them into not great financial well-being, because now maybe I'm not in a space where I can work. Maybe I'm not in a space where I'm not taking care of those things like I would normally do to keep me going, to keep my household going. So
Mhm,
that's one avenue, right? But then I
mhm,
also want people to think about the avenue when maybe I'm fine, but then my financial well-being changes. And so now, I think about myself and, my experience personally, from when I was going through what I was going through. Then there's the anxiety, there's the worry, the depression, there is, the fear, all these things, that's affecting you mentally, that's affecting you physically, because what it is that you're experiencing of trying to figure out, how am I going to do that? How I'm going to manage that? And it's just like, something to think about. How
mhm.
many people are experiencing that right now?
Mm.
because you're in this financial space and
Mm-hmm.
you want to feel good today, but I got to think about, am I going to did I pay the rent on the first, or am I finna get a 5-day notice, or do I have this debt? What
Yeah.
am I gonna do? Like, these are real things that people are experiencing and that's happening. And so again, just tying that factor into there of what your show is about, it can go either way and
Absolutely.
directly connect and relate to
Absolutely.
how this could potentially impact somebody's overall
Absolutely.
well-being.
Absolutely, Erica. I'm with you on that one because when the money's low and the bill collectors are calling,
Mm-hmm.
and you get those letters in the mail, you can only ignore for so long.
Yep.
I mean, you're going to start losing sleep.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're going to start
Mm-hmm.
being more irritable
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know where you don't know when your next little check's going to come from. You know,
Right.
you don't know when it's
Right.
coming. You know, hey, you're gonna have to start asking family, friends for a little bit of cash to help you get through, and they're gonna want their money back.
Right.
So that's not going nowhere. So
Right.
that's stress.
Right.
That is stress.
So it's just something, to think about. And I think the big thing, right, is just figuring out, how do we break this cycle? How do we break this cycle, whether it's going this route or this route? How do we break that? How do we get to an overall wellness? And I would have to say we gotta start with that simple education factor. We gotta know. You
Yes,
got to know what's happening.
indeed,
We got to know those concepts of financial literacy.
man.
And my favorite two words when it comes to financial literacy, and I'm teaching my courses and I'm doing workshops, aware and control. When it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to your finances, you have to be aware. You got to know what you got coming in, what you got going out. Even if it ain't enough to make everything meet, you still need to be aware. What do I have? And that helps you essentially be in control. In the
Mhm.
control of what I mean of, I know what I got coming in, I know what I got coming out. I know what I'm short. So, how do I now try to take these pieces and maneuver whatever that looks like for me, whether that's me getting another job to try to get extra money, whether that's me, maybe having to make this decision over here, whatever that looks like for my particular situation, but help me get back to that sense of control. Because
Mhm.
not having control and not knowing which or where I'm going, it's not a good place to be in.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not a good place to be in. And
No,
I've
no.
been there. Like I said, it's not a good place to be in when you can, true story, see in your bank account that your paycheck is going to hit right on
Yeah,
Thursday. Tomorrow
yeah.
is Thursday. Somebody looking at their check, and that check, you see it, it's coming at midnight, right? And
Yes,
you
indeed.
already know before you even got it that you broke, that you don't got enough money to pay the bills. You don't
Mm.
even got enough money to get up and put gas in your car. Ask me
Man,
how I know this. I've experienced it. I've
you and
experienced it. So
you and
everything
me
that I
both, Erica. You and me
and
both.
on, it's not me just saying it because I want to just say it again.
Preach
But
it.
again, I say that with encouragement, you can
Yes,
overcome it.
yes,
And you can overcome it. And
yes.
so it's just, that's not a good place to be in.
It's
And in my
no.
case, um it was the payday loans for me. Oh my, that was the
Mm.
worst experience ever, because it's like then you become in that disparity mode, right? That desperate mode. Okay, I see my check. I know I don't got enough, but I still need to do this. I still need to get groceries. I still need to be able to put gas in my car. And now you're looking for other avenues. And for me, it was going to get the loans. Well, guess what? That wasn't helping me. That was hurting me. Um, that was putting me in a more worse. But I'm sharing all this and being so open about it again to bring the importance of why we need to have these concepts, these basic core concepts of financial literacy, why we need to be aware, why we need to be in control when it comes to this.
Hmm. I have another question by on the Facebook chat by Mark Nitch.
Okay.
He wants to know the importance of understanding interest rates.
Oh, absolutely. That's important, especially when it comes to credit cards, because
Mm, mm,
it's so easy, right? Let me get this
mm,
card, let me spend.
mm,
But then do you understand that again, what I gave the concept earlier, just to keep it simple, if I get this credit card and I spend this credit card, this balance on my card, and I don't make that minimum payment by the due date, well, now that balance is being charged interest.
mm,
So if my interest rate is 2.99% interest, well, whatever that balance is times 2.99% interest is
mm,
now going to be stacked on top of the balance that I had carried over. And so that's where it gets vicious with credit cards in particular, because now I'm drowning. I can't ever get ahead
yeah,
because now I study have this interest being tacked on. So absolutely, I think you said his name was Mark.
Mark. Yeah,
You want to know about interest rates and how and I just like to say the basic concept of how interest works. What does this mean if this interest is tacked on? How is this going to impact me? How is this going
right.
to impact my card? And another one quick is a lot of people go out, for example, the furniture store. They hone you in. Well, you can get this furniture set. We're
Mm,
running 18%. We're doing 18 months, 0% interest. Well, that's great, but do you understand that when that 18 months is over, that interest from the start up until the end of that 18 months is being tacked onto your bill if you do not have it paid off in full by the deadline. You
the
see
whole
that happen?
eight from the start.
Correct. So you get it interest free, but a lot of people miss the concept that that's only good if you actually know for sure you're going to have that balance paid in full before that interest free runs out. Because the moment that interest free comes out, when you get your statement, if you look at your statement, you're going to see the
Mm,
interest that
mm,
was calculated from when you purchased
mm,
up until that point added on the back end.
mm.
So this is where again,
So you get totally screwed at the end.
correct. So it's only beneficial if you're going to for sure have it paid off in full before, using my example, before that 18 months 0% interest runs out.
Mm,
So again, just what we've been talking about all night, it is so important to educate yourself. If you don't know, don't be ashamed about not
mm.
knowing. Learn what you need to learn, read
Hey,
what you need to read, ask questions, connect with people so you can know, so you can make better decisions for yourself financially.
dig that. Dig that. Uh, I got a few more questions, and I really appreciate the knowledge that you're giving us. And just so we're clear, friends and family, she's been up since 4 o'clock this morning.
I have. Okay, let me tell you this journey.
I, I just want to throw that out there. So uh, the questions are great. Uh, from the time that we have, please keep them coming. All right. Uh, let, let me say this. Stats show that 38% of Black folk, African Americans, are financially literate. Only 38%. But yet, here's the kicker. But yet, we are the biggest consumers on the planet.
I believe
What
it.
what are we doing wrong?
I believe it.
How is it that we can be that? And maybe it's because of our illiteracy that we just we just buy because we want, not knowing that I could have put this $5-10 in a piggy bank, or I could have put this $50 into something that will help me in the future instead of just on a nice pair of shoes.
Correct. And I also would like to put the question in there for everybody that's watching. Or is it because we don't know how to make sound decisions when it comes to investing and making our money work for us and actually getting a return on investment. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe instead of buying, this nice whatever shirt, shoes, whatever that looks like for that individual, how do I then take my money and now actually put it into something, whether that's stocks, whether that's investments, whether that's real estate, where I'm actually going to see a return on investment on my money that's actually going to help me and grow me for the direction I'm trying to go. And then I also think too, what you said, poor decision making as far as spending habits. Again, going back to myself, I'll be the first one to put myself out there. In addition to when I was going through what I was going through with my house, guess what? I was living beyond my means. I was buying things I couldn't afford. I was putting stuff on a credit card because, I wanted to have it, right? I needed to have it, or at least I thought I needed to have it at that time, but not really understanding how my decision making financially was going to hurt me. And it did hurt me, in addition to the house experience and everything. But all those things were a combination of things that hurt me and put me in a bad space. So for the people out there that likes to shop, I like to shop. I'm not saying you can't shop. What I'm saying is, let's go back to that word, budget. When you are budgeting, guess who
All
should
on a
be?
budget, Erica.
When you are budgeting,
All
if
on
you
a budget.
can, you should be on your budget. You should be on your budget.
Right.
If your budget for you, let's just say for the week, is $100, that's your budget for the week. Stay in your budget.
My
Just
my
a
wife
thought.
my wife will over here giving us the googly eyes on the Facebook chat. Like, yeah, we talking about you.
I mean, we gotta be in control of our spending, and so many people are not, and so many people, unfortunately, are spending, and the spending that they're spending. What's the saying? If it don't make money, it don't make sense. Well, if you just spending to spend, and it's not making you any money, it's not giving you any return.
No.
Think about that.
Right. And the thing is, even if you did buy some stuff, you're not going to wear it that much.
Listen, come my closet.
Oh.
But at the same time, I will say, I don't shop all the time. So I mean,
Right.
I keep my stuff and I wear it for a while and I wear it again. I ain't afraid to wear it again. But so I'm not shopping every weekend. But again, we got to make better choices with our money.
Indeed.
Bottom line, we got to make better choices with our money. And like I just mentioned, we need to know how to invest our money. We need to know how to make our money grow for us.
And it's not. It doesn't It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with budgeting. I think it has something also to do with our mindset when it comes to money, right?
I agree.
Which leads me to ask you this question. And I read your article on the San Francisco Post that they did on you. That's pretty cool, by the way.
Thank you.
And one of the answers that you gave of the questions was concerning the mindset. And you said, quote, it's a small quote, the number one starting point, in my opinion, yours, is a person's mindset. If their mindset is not where it needs to be, nothing will change.
Absolutely. I 100% stand by that and agree to that in anything that we do. And that is why, for those out there that purchase my books, the first thing I talk about before we even go into finances, the first modules in both books are about mindset, are about learning how to create vision boards, about learning how to create goals. We got to start with our mind. I tell people all the time, I can talk you to your blue in the face. We can talk every day, but until you are mentally there in that space to ready to make this change, to ready to move forward, to learn, we're not going to get anywhere. And so in everything that we do, we have to start there. We have to start there. And then once we start and do the work there, now we can start taking those steps to get us along this financial journey. Because, kind of going off of your note, if your mindset is, hey, I got to be in the known, right? I gotta be the person that pulls up, I'm the flyest person in the
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like for you, okay?
Yeah. Right.
But at the same time, you need to, is that the mindset that's gonna help you? Or is it the mindset that, you know what, maybe I do want to get this, but right now is not the time. And now I need to be thinking about making the decisions and putting a priority on myself and what it is that I'm looking to accomplish before maybe I get to purchasing. And I think we do it reverse. We want to have the look, we want to have the clothes, we want to have the car, we want to have the lifestyle, but we got to take a step back and put in the work in our mind and put in the work in self and what it is that we need to do to get our finances going before we get there.
Got you. Got you. Here's one more. Here's another question from Mark. Are there any ways to use your 401k slash Roth without getting a penalty?
Yes, there is. Purchasing a home. So the IRS says that a first time home buyer is anyone who has not purchased and or owned a home within the last 2 years. So if you are someone out there that is a first time home buyer, I just like to throw this out there. So people are aware of what their options are. But let's just say if you wanted to purchase a home and you needed to use, you needed money for a down payment. Well, you can pull from that and not be penalized because it allows you to purchase a home for a first time home buyer, if that makes sense what I'm saying. So that would be one way in which you could pull money using your 401k or whatever 403b to be able to purchase for the needs of home buying. Another way, if an individual was in a situation, let's say maybe you did need to pay off some things and you don't have it, but you're looking for ways to, how do I get in control of my situation? Well, you actually can loan against it, and you can pay it back, and you will not be penalized for loaning. And depending on who you're with, the interest you pay actually comes back to you.
Nice, nice. You gave a lot of information, sister.
Yeah.
A
Hey,
lot of information.
this is the journey.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The journey, and I like to say I know these things to be true because I personally
You
experienced it.
lived it. You lived
I've
it.
lived it. I've done it. I've lived it. I'm still on
So,
the journey. I'm still learning and I'm still living, and there will be more.
indeed, indeed. And it's good to have conversations like this because what you're sharing is, to some people it would be considered kind of common because they are privy to this information, but to those that are not, you are really helping people.
Thank
You are
you.
really doing the work, right?
Thank you.
And this I hope for the people that were listening and was myself, this is very enlightening because I could say that I knew some things, but I didn't know the depth of these, of what we were, the topics that we're talking about, until you spoke about it. So it's like we're having this conversation, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, damn, you know, like this is some good stuff right here. You know what I mean? It's like this is good stuff to know and to learn, because let's go back to the mindset factor. We have to rewire our thinking, and instead of being the spenders, let's flip the script on that income. Put some of
Yes.
that money into something. And
Yes.
and when that money doubles, you can put that money into something else and
Yes.
just rinse and repeat, right?
Yes.
And like you said, we can ball on the budget,
Yeah.
put a couple of dollars outside for spending or whatever, but utilize this little piece to invest or to save or whatever. Put on a CD. I don't know. I don't know there's different things that people can do
Absolutely.
to build their money. And this is, I'm gonna say this again, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have life insurance, get on that. Get
Yes.
on
And if you
that.
need a life agent, call me, tap in. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram,
Get
Odom
on it.
Investments. If you
Indeed.
don't follow us, follow us. If you want to learn more about me and read my full story, go to my website, odomhomes.com. I do free consultations, book a consultation. Let's talk. Let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about where you're at and where you're trying to get to.
All right. So what's next? What's next for you on your journey, Miss Erica?
Oh, well, the month of October, like I said, this is National Book Month. So I'm actually going to be on tour after this week. So I will be doing my book tour this month. For the individuals out there that's interested, we have our Journey to Success course that'll be going for the month of November. November 5th is our next go around for that. The list goes on
Yeah,
for me. So yeah, there's lots happening in the month of October.
that's what's up.
Um,
How
go
can
ahead.
people reach you?
So they can reach me multiple ways. I feel like most people are on social media platforms. Again, if you are on Facebook, if you are on Instagram, you can type in the search Odom Investments and Property Management. We have both a Facebook and Instagram page. If you want to, again, read more about me, read some of the articles out there about me, check out our website, learn more about our course, you can go to odomhomes.com.
All right. All right. Well, I wish we could talk a little longer,
I
but
know.
you need to go home. You got to go
Yes,
home.
gotta get home. Listen, 4 a.m. is coming right back around extremely fast. So, but we're gonna make it through on this journey.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I know you're going to continue to do good things and continue to be your authentic self, Erica.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I think that's what the listeners are seeing more of. They're seeing you, and they're
Hmm.
seeing you be authentic when you talk about the ups and downs that you had to deal with, and not only that, the ability for you to learn from your
Hmm.
mistakes, and you
Hmm.
put it in a book. You put
Yes,
all that stuff in a
this
book.
is true. This is very true.
So, so the blueprint is there, ladies and gentlemen. Journey to Success. Uh, I haven't read the book, but now that I know what it's about, I would co-sign and say, check it out.
Thank you. And can
Learn
I
something.
just add quick? I want to add too. If you are here local in Milwaukee, the first stop of my tour is, of course, here right at home,
Boom.
Mary Ryan Boys and Girls Club next Saturday, October 12th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I would love to meet you. I will be one of the authors there. This is going to be a great event. Families, friends, educators, get the kids out. The first 300 kids get a voucher. That voucher allows them to get any book of their choice free. It does not matter what the cost of the book is. We're going to have Milwaukee Public Library on site, getting kids library cards printed on site. We really need to get back to this push to literacy. So
Mhm.
please, please, please bring the kids out next Saturday.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Coach Erica Odom, it's been a great pleasure to speak with you and learn some things tonight. I
Yes.
learned some things.
Yeah.
So yes, uh, I would like for us to have another kick at the can with this and really talk about your new book and and just uh just to further educate the masses about financial literacy because there's so much that we don't know.
Absolutely.
There's so much that we don't know, and we think we have all the answers until we meet people like you, that share that wealth of knowledge and really you give it to us straight.
Hmm.
So yeah, continue doing the work, Miss Erica. And round two.
Thank you.
Look
And
forward-
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And you have a good evening. And to everybody, you guys have a good evening too. My name is Mark Ross, and this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Remember, guys, self care is important. So please make your mental health and your physical health a priority every day first. Have a good night.